the most advanced recruiting techniques. Land the most desirable talent. Launch your company towards massive success. This is the Hire Power Radio Show with Rick Girard.
Let's talk about what really draws people to your company and keeps them there. Trust. So trust is what drives better decision-making, customer experience, and profitability. But trust is not gained after a person starts working for your company. It is established during the interview process. You see, people's job mindset has evolved over the past few years, and we are now being judged throughout the process for clarity, purpose, and structural integrity. Elements that demonstrate that you take your business seriously and are playing to win. When hiring, start with the end in mind. Focus on retention with the intention of building trust through the experience for maximum engagement and long-term growth. I'm Rick Girard, and welcome to the Hire Power Radio Show. We help entrepreneurs and executives win-win the strongest hires. We do so by sharing insights from top-performing rebel entrepreneurs, game changers, and industry leaders like our guest today, Mr. Ville Houttu. Ville is the founder and CEO of Vincent USA. Now, Ville helped Vincent Finland reach 350 employees and took it public on NASDAQ First North Marketplace. And after the IPO, Ville moved to California to start Vincent's local subsidiary. Ville and the company have been recognized by several notable institutions, including 5,000 fastest growing companies in America's list. In 2020, he led the company to rank top 50 on the Fast Company's Best Workplaces for Innovators list. And Ville is a known public speaker, and his leadership has been featured in several leading publications, including TechCrunch, Forbes Magazine, and Entrepreneur, which makes Ville the perfect expert for today's topic. Ville, welcome to the Hire Power Radio Show today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
I was going to get through that whole thing probably with I had to have one glitch.
You did well. And I have to say, we did this 4 years ago.
I know.
And I still keep getting referrals back to the episode when we talk about flat organizations, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
I totally. And I'm looking forward to doing more of this with you because it's like you've got such great content, and like everybody's just starving for great content, right? So
thank you.
Awesome. So today we're going to talk about why and how to build trust, and we're going to do that in the form of a solution that you came up with, which is we're going to talk about this concept of CEO for a day. Right? Was it CEO for a day or month?
CEO of the day.
CEO of the day.
You got it.
So now I'm sure that a lot of our audience, especially entrepreneurs, are probably cringing when they hear this idea. Like, so you're giving an employee the power to be CEO for the day. And yes, that's what you've done.
Correct. And we've been doing it for 4 years now. So not just today.
4 years. All right. So let's talk a little bit about this. So in my mind, the first thing that goes like, oh my God, you're giving up power for a day. You're empowering somebody to be CEO. Can you trust somebody to do that?
And that's the question. And how trust works. It's a two-way street, right? So and it has to start from the top. So basically, what I'm thinking is there's only one way you can give it a try whether you can trust the employees is by just trusting them first.
Yeah. And
in our experience from running this program for 4 years, we know that by trusting your employees, you will earn their trust in return.
And see, I think we hear that a lot, and we talk about it a lot, and it's kind of a very discussed concept, but it's very hard to put into practice.
Correct. Yeah. And I think it's about time to stop talking about it and
I
really
would agree.
Start doing it.
I would agree 100%, especially with all the signals that are going out of there. I mean, we have a tidal wave of people leaving companies. So if you're an executive right now and you're losing people, that should have been your wake-up call through last year. And probably if you're still losing people this year, people are leaving companies because really, if you boil it down to the most important thing, it's trust, right?
Yeah. And I think more importantly, it's the culture. So why people are leaving companies, they are looking for a culture that fits.
Yeah.
And often we leaders, we tend to think that, okay, now we have to build a culture that fits. But the problem is we can't. So no one else can build the culture than the employees themselves.
That is true. But I also believe that your values that you kind of instill into the culture, right, filter down to build out the culture, right?
Correct. Yes. So what the leader's job is to empower and trust, and the employee's job is to build the culture that fits. Because otherwise, it's a guessing game, right? So we are trying to guess what the employees might need.
Which is interesting because all you have to do is ask them, and they'll tell you.
Yeah,
you have conversation.
they do. I promise you.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
and that's sort of the problem, and it's not even a cultural problem overall. You might think that, Europe versus USA and this and that. Actually, what's taking place in the workplace, you have so many things under your responsibility that you don't really voice out your personal needs unless you have to.
Yeah.
And that's why the CEO of the day is very powerful, because all the employees will get to be a CEO, but you can't really turn it away, and nobody has to go twice.
So let's talk a little bit about this. So how has this been impactful to your company, or why has this been important to your company, and important enough for you to run it for the past 4 years?
Well, obviously, and maybe I start telling a little bit about what we do.
Well, let's say that for the second piece.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let's tell them why it's important to think about this. Let's butter them up a little bit first before we give them the jam.
Yeah, yeah. So the trust, sort of, it's a nice word, and like you said, we talk about trust a lot, but the real the only way sort of like to feed it into the system is really make people responsible of owning those decisions and the trust and the decision making,
mm-hmm.
and have them make decisions that we all live with, not just individuals or groups of people.
Well, I think also you're keeping people engaged, right? I mean, that's really the idea. The truth is, like, it's our job as leaders to make sure that our people are happy, and if they're happy, then they're engaged, and if they're engaged, then everything elevates within the company, profits, growth, everything, right?
Yeah, that's how we see in the market. So, and if you look at the U.S. labor statistics data today, most employees are actually, over half of your employees are disengaged.
Mm-hmm.
Today, and think about sort of, you brought up a good point of the performance or of the company and the business. Think about the situation where your employees would be fully engaged, not disengaged, which is the situation today. Any tools that lead us towards that goal, I think, will be worth it.
I would agree. What has it done for your business? Maybe give an example of, like, how has this spurred growth for Vincent?
Well, we've been in the United States for 5 years now, and we started with 0 revenue, as most young companies do. And last year we went over 10 million in revenues. And that's in only 5 years. We were also named one of the best workplaces for innovators by the Inc. magazine. And we also made it to the precious Inc. 5,000 list of fastest growing companies. Our growth last year was 65%.
65% growth.
Yes.
And you've been consistently doing that year over year?
Yes. So we've been growing year on year, and that was the last year number, and we're going to be much higher this year, obviously. So it's a continuing trend, but it's the growth and profitability, they are very loose targets. They are not meaningful to employees.
Yeah.
and they might be, the shareholders, they appreciate that,
Of course.
but so our goals should be in something else. In our case, our KPIs are employee satisfaction and client happiness.
So that's those are great KPIs to build into your company. All right, you're listening to the Higher Power Radio Show. I'm your host, Rick Girard. For our podcast listeners, we're going to take a quick educational moment from our sponsors. Hey, check out stridesearch.com. There you'll find a link to order your copy of Healing Career Wounds. Let it be your guide to winning the strongest hires for your company. Our guest today is Ville Houttu. He is the Houttu. I don't know. See, I keep putting an N there. I'm sorry. CEO
of Vincent. It's the orange collar or something.
CEO of Vincent USA. And we're talking about trust and then how this conveys it. Now, you had a really creative way in which you guys have been able to build trust in your company, which you call CEO for the day. So let's talk about, first, lay out for me what CEO for the day is.
CEO of the day is a program where we select one employee to be CEO for a day, and he or she can make one decision with unlimited budget, as long as it makes our workplace better.
Okay, so that's the only parameters.
That's
as long as it benefits the workplace of the company.
Correct.
Okay, so so let's say I'm a salesperson. I'm thinking, hey, I'm CEO for the day. What if I wanted to buy a Ferrari so I can go impress all the clients?
And then I think you might, as the CEO of the day, ask yourself, how does it make our workplace better?
Yeah.
So does it really make the workplace better if one guy has a Ferrari, but by the company?
What if it's the company Ferrari?
And that's a better concept.
Yeah.
But then again, what we've seen during the 4 years is that people really use the company money as they would use their own, and they don't put all, if Ferrari costs, what is it, for $500K, they don't. I don't think they put that kind of money into one investment, as in they can get so much more that will actually make the workplace much better.
Yeah.
For the other workers. So
I'm sure. I think if you were the one who actually said, well, I'm buying a Ferrari for the office, you'd probably get a lot of backlash, I would imagine.
Yeah, you would imagine. I would too.
So, okay. So how did you come up with this concept?
This concept actually came from an employee.
Okay.
And so it's I can't really own it. I implemented it.
Okay.
And it was we are in 2018.
Okay.
And it's time for John, one of our software engineers, to have his annual performance review.
Okay.
And so he sent me a calendar invite to the review with a pretty cheeky title, I have to say. It said, "Promote John to CEO." And I thought, well, that's a wild idea. Yeah, I like him too. And so, but sort of like, first, obviously, I'm struggling because I'm thinking, this guy has a lot of nerve, thinking he can do my job. But of course, on the other hand, what if I do it? And do I throw him under the bus, making him unlike it? What if he makes a decision that people don't like? Or on the other hand, what if people like him more and want him to continue as the CEO?
Yeah, there's a struggle there, right?
So we went back and forth, and I discussed with my leadership team, who were obviously concerned, as you might imagine. And but it's one of those things where when you can't decide, sometimes maybe means yes. And we wanted to give it a try, and so we made John CEO for one day. And I told him, you can do whatever.
So you get to park in your parking spot.
No, let's not talk about it. I'm a cyclist. My bike has a spot.
Okay.
But yeah, so he made one decision, and he decided to get beanbag chairs to our lounge instead of the chairs that I bought. So he
so got rid of the chairs that you guys had and got beanbag chairs.
Yeah, so we have beanbag chairs, and I hate beanbag chairs. But
I was gonna say they're like really difficult to get out of sometimes.
Yeah, but
they're great if you just want to Netflix and chill. But
right, yeah, well, it splits people into two different camps. But the thing is, we spoke about trust before earlier. So that was the moment. Like we built a new level of trust. Much stronger than ever before in that moment, because I trusted him with a big responsibility, and he trusted me not to judge his decision, even though it was against my personal preference.
Yeah,
clearly. So that experience taught us a lot, and that's why we started doing it. It's every month we have one CEO of the day decision.
I would imagine after a while, it's now a competition who can come up with the best decision.
Sure, and we do.
Is it or no?
We do encourage discussion with the among the colleagues. Mm-hmm. So it's that's healthy. I do not get involved, and I do not approve or.
So it's a surprise to you.
It is, yeah.
Okay.
And it's always an exciting moment, almost like a Christmas Eve to me. Once a month to see what's coming up, but yeah.
Are you gonna get a lump of coal in your stocking, or are you gonna get some goodies?
Yeah, exactly. But
all right.
They come with really, really good initiatives. Like for example, one thing comes to my mind from last December when we had worked like 2 years remotely, and there's a lot going on in the world at the moment. And Alicia, who works in our people operations, realized that people can feel overwhelmed or stressed with the situation, and thanks to her decision, we now have company paid mental health service for all the employees.
Okay, like somebody who comes in and talks to people.
Yeah, we have a service that they can engage, and the reason, or I think the reason it's really powerful is that when it came from an employee instead of me, almost everyone has signed up. So think about, like, if I came and told them that you guys, I think you feel overwhelmed or stressed, you need to go and see someone, versus they coming up with the solution themselves.
Yeah.
So it's been much stronger.
It's always much more powerful when it comes from your employees.
Yep.
And I find it fascinating that we don't listen sometimes to our employees when they're telling us these things.
It's hard. Yeah. I mean, there are so many things on the plate, and often it's like, if you don't create clear parameters on how this works, often the one who's shouting the loudest gets their opinion raised. But now when we're taking turns every month, it's actually very powerful.
Yeah. Okay, so everybody gets to go once, and then once you're done, you don't go again?
Correct. Yes.
So that's forcing growth too, because you have to continue to grow the company. Otherwise, you run out of people for CEO of the month.
Yeah, we are a growth company, and we hire a lot.
That's good. That's very good. All right, so I want to delve into how you did this. So I think some of our audience might be scratching their head going, okay, this sounds like a really cool idea, but how would I implement this into my company? What steps did you take to do this, right? So I would imagine you really need to start with getting it. It was your idea. Do you give it to somebody else to take ownership? I mean, how do you get everybody on board?
Yeah, and thanks to John, it was John's idea. I implemented it. But and I think you want to have your leadership team on board for sure before you do anything that. But other than that, you only need one person who will be the first CEO of the day. And the way we do it, so every month we select one employee to be the CEO of the day. He will have unlimited budget to make one decision, as long as it makes our workplace better. And sort of like I said, we encourage discussion, but the CEO will own his or her decision. So, and it's going to be lasting. So, as you know, CEO decisions, you don't revoke them.
They're hard to change.
They stay.
So, if you're trying to get your people to take ownership and actually drive this, then probably the best way to roll this out is to let them listen to this episode. They get the idea and they share it from you.
Yeah,
or listen to an article or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
and one thing to note here is we focus our CEO of the day to improve our workplace.
Yeah.
But you could use it to improve your sales process or marketing, and whether you lead a team or a group of people, you can do it within that group as well. Because the employees, the people in your team, have a lot of good ideas that, when you empower them to implement them, you'll improve whatever you're aiming to improve.
I would imagine interdepartmentally, sometimes you share ideas or you're afraid to share ideas because you think they're going to get shot down. Now you have the power to be able to do this.
Correct. Yes.
And I would imagine that some people have you ever had anybody say, no, I don't want to be CEO for the day yet?
Some people have tried, but yeah, it's
no choice.
It's something that also teaches you about decision making, and it gives you an opportunity to try and work in a leadership position. Even like you may have a dream of working in a leadership position in the future, so now you can try it, and it's a risk-free environment to do that.
That's very cool, and it's super supportive. So you get everybody on board. Now what needs to happen? I would imagine you have to deal with getting leadership to step aside, right?
Yeah, or step aside, or not make the decision for the CEO.
Was that difficult for you?
It's super difficult, and I reply with 2 words: no comment. I leave it at that. But yeah, it's very hard because obviously, whatever the decision is, I typically have an opinion on it, so I want to stay away. But that's the only true.
Well, what about the other leaders in the organization? I mean, you've got to get them on board with them not saying anything either, right? So you've taught all of them to say no comment.
Yeah, there's very little managing in our company, so I don't really know what they talk about or discuss with the employees too much. But this is I think this is something that's continuously evolving and improving in the process itself.
Okay, got it. So, how did you present this to the other leaders in the organization now, your other stakeholders?
So our leadership team, obviously, when I told them about the idea, the scenarios they came up with were obviously the worst.
Like somebody's going to buy a Ferrari.
Yeah, and leaders are very good at trying to figure out why not to change things and keep everything stable. But when we started mapping out the different scenarios and looking at also the positives, the empowerment, we did research on the topic and couldn't find anything similar anywhere else. And sort of like I said, we had a lot of pros, a few cons that were a little concerning, but decided to go ahead and give it a try.
Okay.
And that's to be brutally honest, that's what we did. We gave it a shot, and it's working. It's really working.
Okay. So I mean, you almost have to have everybody agree that, hey, look, you're not going to give any approval on this. I mean, it's basically it's your decision. We all step aside and we support you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone feels like a CEO if they have to ask decisions or approvals for whether we get snacks or beer kegs to our office, which have both happened. We have a lot of fruits and what else? Well, we actually have 2 beer kegs because the one is for IPA and the second one is a monthly subscription. But CEOs typically, when they make decisions like that, they don't ask for approvals. It's on their they are mandated to do so if it improves the workplace. And by the way, now for all the HR people, we also have a company-based Uber taking employees home after the beer tasting thing. So it's safe.
That's good. Okay, so we had to get everybody on board. I'm just trying to step this out. Then you basically had to get the management team to kind of step aside and allow this to happen. And then your third step would be what? I mean, having the person take ownership?
Yeah. So we have a monthly meeting, all hands meeting, where the CEO of the day reveals his or her decision. And the way we do it, it's actually in a storytelling format. So we set the stage, we describe the problem, solution, and an outcome. So there's also an element of presenting and describing your decision, not just the I decided this, but more like setting the background. And that's typically how CEOs explain when they make big decisions. So there's an element to that. But once the decision has been made, it's time to implement it. And that's something that you as a CEO often forget. So our new CEOs of the day forget that, okay, how do I make this happen?
Oh, so they come up with the idea, and then they're also driving to implement the idea.
Yes.
Okay. So they're not just handing it off to you to drive.
No.
So that becomes a project for them, essentially.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
And it's interesting. Another example I always think about is Sean, who's our Arizona-based programmer, and now many of the employees in the United States, we still work remotely, and he really likes to work from home, but he doesn't love cleaning the home. So what he decided is that we now have our remote employees now have $100 per month reimbursed for cleaning services. So it's much more productive and enjoyable to work from a clean home instead of a home that hasn't been cleaned in a while.
Yeah.
And
yeah. I've been on some Zoom meetings where you see stuff in the background.
Right, but it's something you don't think about, right? Yeah. But it was a great thing that came from someone who do.
Yeah, that's his line, and he's probably happy now, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Has somebody coming in taking out the trash weekly and getting rid of the pizza boxes.
Oh yes, and we all are happy. We're using that benefit for sure.
You're having them in Zoom meetings going, wait, can you get rid of that pile behind you? Very cool.
And what I hear often is like, okay, you guys are crazy. You spend a lot of money on this. This is a very expensive program, and we actually calculated it out, and we haven't spent one single penny more than we would have otherwise spent while keeping employees happy, healthy, and engaged.
Well, okay, so you can tie that back to the fact that you have a really low attrition rate, right?
Yes, but I think you can tie it back to the fact that we are very efficient in spending the money on something they really need.
Yeah,
because these needs, they come from employees instead of them coming from us. So we are not trying to guess what they might need. We know precisely what they need, and we spend the money there.
That's fantastic. And I think you've given us some really good ways in which we can roll it out. I mean, really, to me, I'm summarizing it up as, really you make the call, you get everybody on board, and then get management team to bow to the decisions, and then essentially you're giving ownership, and they make and drive the whole decision.
I love what you're trying to do. You're trying to create the rules.
Yeah.
But the whole idea of the initiative and the program is not to create rules. So we empower and we let them to create the rules. You
still have to create a structure around it. I mean, you have the rule that you can't. Correct. You have to spend it on something that's going to make the workplace better.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
You can't just go. Otherwise, You'd have 4 or 5 people that would have, look, if I was working for you, I would have had a new Ferrari.
Yeah,
already.
yeah, I'm just playing with
And then you probably would have canned me.
Yeah, but here's the other thing. If you start adding too many boundaries around it, too many policies limiting the fact, setting a budget even for the decision, it doesn't work anymore. Because nobody feels like a CEO if you have $20 to spend or $40, or let's say if you gave them a budget of $5,000, that's exactly what they're going to spend. And that's why the budget has to be unlimited.
That's a really good point. All right, shoot, we're getting pretty close on time, Ville. What would be 2 or 3 key takeaways you can give the audience that can plug into their business today?
I think the takeaway from here is that whether you lead a team, group, or an entire organization, I challenge you to join the movement and make your employees CEOs for a day, because only by trusting them you will earn their trust in return. And with employees like that, there's really no stopping where your business can go.
That is so very true. Ville, thanks so much for your time investment today. And I want to welcome you to the Higher Power Radio community. Now, how can people find Vincent, find yourself? How can they reach you guys?
We are vincit.com. That's vincit.com. And my contacts are in there. And also, of course, LinkedIn is the best place to find me. And
as always, we'll have all those links in the show notes. Thanks for tuning in this week's episode of Higher Power. Quick thanks to our team, Brian Colburn, Andrea Ballin, and Ayla Gerard. If you're listening to the podcast, please subscribe, review, and share. After all, the show's for you, and we want to continue to make valuable content that you can plug into your business today. You can join the Higher Power Radio community at Hire, H-I-R-E, Power, P-O-W-E-R, radio, R-A-D-I-O.com, or you can drop me an email at rickatstridesearch.com. Tune in next Tuesday. Our guest is going to be Steve Newcomb. Steve is the former CEO of Famous, and he's also the writer of one of my favorite kind of articles that I've called The Cult Creation. I'm Rick Gerard, your host, and you have been listening to the Higher Power Radio Show. Aloha. Aloha.
Thank you for listening to Higher Power Radio. Catch our LinkedIn Live show every Tuesday at noon, or download the podcast on iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube, or your favorite podcast platform. We appreciate you joining us on Higher Power Radio with your guide to recruitment success, Rick Gerard.